do have a box that has been sitting in our hall.
I mean, you're right.
For maybe as long.
I'll get rid of it today.
No, we can walk over Whole Foods together and do that. Return it. Is it past the point? Is it not past the point you can return it?
I don't think so. I don't think it's been that long.
Okay. You could always make a Zen Japanese garden with those rocks. We have to.
Yeah.
Buy some sand, big bowl.
Right.
Get a little rake.
Yep. Big rake.
A big rake.
Well, yeah, you can't. I mean, those are pretty big rocks.
No, we could use like 2 or 3 of them. As small as Zen Japanese garden.
But the little rakes, you have to have the little rocks. We could smash them.
No, I mean it would be like a permanent feature.
Oh.
Scale feature, like a
Oh.
you rake around them.
Oh. I don't know how I feel about that. Then you bump into it with the rake all the time.
Or it's part of your arrangement. Like you're not just sand. Like sometimes Japanese gardens have like boulders in them. Sometimes it would be the boulder. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you want to get the milk?
What does this look?
I don't know. I don't feel great about.
I feel like you don't know what a Zen garden looks like.
I do. I've been to them.
Having some boulders in there is cool.
Oh, but how are you going to rake around it? But the sand is going to get.
To make different formations, you know what I mean? Because then you're raking a circle around that sort of thing, and then emanating out from it into other elements that emanate into it,
Sure.
Or curving through it, you know what I mean?
My fear with the situation is that when you rake near it, the sand is just going to build up around the rock.
I don't think, but there's such small rocks that here's what I would pick it up and rearrange.
I thought you said it was a permanent fixture.
A permanent fixture that can be moved around.
Oh, never mind. That's fine. Okay.
They're not that big.
Okay. I was imagining it would be glued down.
No.
And then I was concerned. Right.
No, that doesn't make
sense.
sense.
Because then everything gets all messed up.
Rearrange the whole garden.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay. I was concerned and confused, but now we're okay. Is everyone okay here? Good morning, everybody. We're debating the properties of a Zen garden that we may or may not be building in our home with rocks that I accidentally purchased. That's the story that's going on currently. I hope that was entertaining for you all. That's just, the problem is, you're going to drive through Malibu? Ooh, wave at us. We're not in Malibu, but we're like past it. Anyway, we're not in Malibu, but she's heading to San Diego, so she's going to have to pass us eventually. So wave at us as you pass by.
You will drive right past us.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Woohoo! Yeah, so, I bought rocks by mistake, which is what it is. It is what it is. How's everybody doing? How was everybody's weekend? What was everybody's weekend? What did you do this weekend? And how was it when you did it? How was it? And what was it? And where was it? And who was it? And when was it? Well, when was it? It was this weekend. And who was it? It was you. And where was it? Probably nearby to where you live. And what was it? Most likely something fun. But maybe not. I just answered a lot of my own questions. My weekend was nice. Cousin's grad party and she got engaged. I saw that. That's so cool. What a beautiful picture that was. Okay, see you later, Anya. I'm making coffee. Wife came home. Max is pretty sick. Oh, no. It was a good couple of graduation party. Long weekend. Tired and worn out. 2 more games today. Today? Isn't it Monday? Why do you have so many games? Did you guys know that today is restocking? You went to see once, Liz? How was it? How was that? I have seen once. Twice. Hee hee hee. But it's true. I've seen once, twice. It was good at a local theater. I cried. Fair enough. Fair enough. Do you add collagen? I did. I sure did. Yes. This is regular season play. They played double headers on Monday and Wednesday. Whoa. Wild times. Collagen is for nails, right? Nails, skin, hair. Whole kit and caboodle, I'd say, right? I don't know. Feels like that. I use collagen to help my leg wound. Oh, see, that's interesting to know. Thank you, Olivia. Did you know that today is restock day? You guys, today is restock day. I will be on later to make slime base for Roll for Slime, and at that time, there will be a restock. Yes, it's true. It's true. Hold on. Well. Yes, today is restock day. Patreon restock is at 4. Regular restock is at 5. Good stuff. Good stuff. My hair is a mess. Construction? Oh no. Not fun. Not fun at all. I mean, I think that's every pregnancy, isn't it, Becca? At least that's what I've heard. Un momento, per favore. Le caffè. Oh no, it's und Kaffee? Kaffee und Milch? Bitte. Kaffee und Milch, bitte. Und Brot? There, I fixed it so it's not so floppy. It's better. Less floppy flop hair. Climb through the jungle. Coffee. So, in case anyone didn't know, what's a super easy slime recipe? I have slime recipes all over my page. You can read all about them. They're all very easy. They absolutely unalive my thyroid, so yeah, I get that. They unalived it. All right. In case anyone is not familiar with our book club Sitch, we are reading A Tale of Magic in the Chris Coffrey universe, which has been phenomenal so far. All previous days are uploaded to YouTube, so if you missed previous days, you can catch up there, and then today's will be uploaded later, and so on and so forth. That's the Sitch all around. If it wasn't this book, I wouldn't be here. Liar! Don't say such things. Oh, that's fair. I finally gave up on the book I've been struggling with since February. Which one, Cindy? Did you tell me what the name was? Morning, Cindy. Try reading Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. Fantastic. Hey, Jen, how's it going? fantastic. I also suggested it to Liz. We both oh, I don't know that one, Cindy. We both devoured it in like, how long did it took me? A day and change, maybe. How long did it take you, Liz? Like nothing, right? I mean, it was so good. So good. Uh-oh, all the people with multiples are not having a good day. Yeah. What was the title again? I'll definitely try. Love Theoretically. We both got it through the library. It came up fast less than a day. Yeah, it was so good. I just devoured it. Really, really excellent. Excellent book. I have now read 3 Ali Hazelwood books. I like Love Theoretically. No, 4. I've done 4. I did Love Theoretically first, best one by far. I did Bride, which was okay. I did Love Hypothesis, which was pretty good. And I did Check and Mate, which was just okay, but that's her like young adult one. So the 2 that I liked the best were Love Theoretically and Love Hypothesis. So I'm gonna read the rest in that category because I liked those a lot. But Love Theoretically was the best. Okay, we are here to read Land of Stories though. Let's do it. And then I'll get to work on restock stuff because today is restock day. I don't know if you heard. Wild times. Chapter 5. Now, if anyone missed, the last thing that happened was Bristol got caught by the librarian and they yelled, "Take her away." And this chapter is called Trial by Family. I'm scared, you guys. Okay, we're gonna be okay. Bristol's gonna be okay. Everything is gonna be fine. Pull it together, folks. We can handle this. We are strong. We can do it. Yeah, Jen, I can give you just the recap. Basically, she was in the like secret library doing her reading and everything and got caught. Yeah. I mean, do we know that, Becca? Do we know this? I know, me either, Avery. I don't know if I'm ready, but we're gonna do it together. We're all here together. We're gonna be okay. Everybody give each other a hug really quickly as we dive into what will probably be a very difficult chapter. Okay. For the first time, Bristol understood what it was like to be scared senseless. There were heavy shackles around her wrists, but she didn't feel them. The smell of decaying rats and mildew filled the air, but it didn't bother her. Blood-curdling screams of prisoners getting whipped echoed through the halls, but she hardly noticed them. Her eyes were fixated on the steel bars surrounding her, but she didn't understand what she was looking at. She was sitting straight up on the edge of a stone bench in her prison cell and hadn't moved a muscle since she was placed there. Everything happened so fast the night before that she couldn't remember where she was or how she got there. And then again, she was in such a state of shock that she could barely think at all. At dawn, ear-piercing cathedral bells didn't even make Bristol flinch. It was now the morning after the worst night of her life, and she had no concept of time. Her mind was completely blank, her body was completely still, and as far as she was concerned, the world had stopped spinning. Her cell door swung open, and a prison guard stepped inside, but his arrival didn't break her petrified trance. "Your defense deputy justice has arrived," the guard said. After hearing this, Bristol was finally able to make sense of where she was and what had happened. She, Bristol Evergreen, had been imprisoned for a crime, and she was sitting in the prison deep below the Chariot Hills courthouse, and the deputy justice assigned to defend her had just come to speak with her about the pending trial. The guard stepped aside, and a tall young man in a black and gray hat and black checkered robe entered the cell. When Bristol gazed up at the deputy justice, she thought her mind was playing tricks on her. "Brooks?" she said. Her eldest brother froze after taking the first steps into the prison cell. His eyes went wide and his face grew pale at the sight of his sister in chains. "Bristol?" he gasped. The Evergreen siblings stared at each other for a full minute without saying a single word. It was the only time in Bristol's life that she had been genuinely pleased
to see her brother, but the pleasure quickly faded after she realized why he was there. Brooks was going to defend her in court. Brooks, Bristol tried to break the silence, but she was at a loss for words. Do you two know each other? The guard asked suspiciously. As Brooks stared at his sister, the disbelief in his eyes changed to a very serious and urgent expression. He raised his index finger to his mouth, imploring her to be quiet. Bristol didn't understand why silence was necessary, but she obliged. We're acquainted, Brooks told the guard behind him. She's just one of the many schoolgirls who admire me. Can you blame her? Her brother's charade was confusing, but she knew it was perfectly legal for deputy justices to defend family members on trial. So why was he pretending that they weren't related? Brooks opened his briefcase and retrieved a quill and a piece of parchment paper. He scribbled a quick note on the paper, folded it, and handed it to the guard. I need you to deliver this message to Justice Evergreen's office on the 4th floor, Brooks instructed. I was just reminded of something involving another case that needs to be addressed immediately. Sir, I can't leave you alone with the prisoner, the guard replied. Don't insult me. This girl is hardly a physical threat to me. The note, however, regards a very serious and timely matter. Justice Evergreen will want this message right away. And if your reluctance jeopardizes his case, I'll make sure he knows you caused the delay. Obviously, the guard didn't appreciate being ordered around. He glared at Brooks and then begrudgingly headed to the 4th floor with note in hand, slamming the cell door behind him. Brooks turned to Bristol in the disbelief returned to his face. My God, Bristol, what the hell have you gotten yourself into? He exclaimed. 1 count of trespassing, 1 count of female literacy, and 1 count of committing magic. Do you have any idea how serious this is? Bristol looked at the floor and then she shook her head. I don't know what to say, she said softly. It all feels like a really bad dream. When you weren't at breakfast this morning, Mother assumed that you had gone to the Home for the Hopeless at volunteering before school, Brooks said. When I got to court, all the deputy justices were talking about the witch that they caught in the library last night. But I didn't put 2 and 2 together. I never imagined in a million years the witch would be my own sister. But I'm not a witch, Bristol exclaimed. The banned book I was reading explains everything. Please, you have to find it and show it to. Are you mad? Brooks asked. I cannot use a banned book as evidence. Then what are you going to use for my defense? Bristol asked. Defense? Brooks asked, as if he was appalled by her choice of words. Bristol, you were caught by 3 witnesses. There is no defense. You're facing life imprisonment with hard labor for committing magic alone, but with trespassing and female literacy on top of it, you'll be lucky to make it out of here alive. You mean they might execute me? Bristol felt like a cold hand had suddenly reached into her body and ripped out her stomach. She had willingly gone down a long path of mistakes, but she had never thought it would lead to this. She started hyperventilating. No. This cannot be happening, she cried. You cannot let them execute me. Please, Brooks, you have to help me. I'm your sister. Brooks rolled his eyes at that remark. Oh, yes, and what a joy you are, he said spitefully. I'm afraid even with my superb defense skills, my hands are tied. There has to be something that we could do. Her brother went quiet and he bit his nails as though he thought about it. There's only one thing I can think of that could potentially help you now. What, Father? Brooks said it like it was good news, but it only made Bristol feel more hopeless than before. Her father was the last person on the planet who she expected to save her. Father isn't going to help me, she said. When he finds out what I've done, he'll want to kill me himself. Yeah, you're right about that, Brooks scoffed. Father may not value your life, but he thinks very highly of his own. He would do anything to preserve his reputation. Nothing is going to tarnish his name more than one of his children getting arrested and sentenced to death. Lucky for him, I'm the only one who knows you're in here. How? Oh, as far as anyone knows, this is the case of Bailey versus the Southern Kingdom. The charges have been filed under the alias you gave the library. When Father gets my note and realizes you're the one on trial, he's going to do whatever he can to sweep this case under the rug before his colleagues find out about it. Yeah, but what if he doesn't? Bristol asked. Father can't be my only chance of survival. Then it all depends on your trial, Brooks explained. First, the prosecution deputy will present your charges to the justice and recommend a penalty. And then if they recommend minimum penalty, the justice will most likely sentence you to life imprisonment with hard labor. But if the deputy recommends maximum penalty, then I guarantee the justice will sentence you to capital punishment. But the sitting justice doesn't have to take the recommendation, just suggest it, Bristol recalled from what she had read. Even if the prosecution deputy recommends the maximum penalty, the justice could just be merciful. Brooke's face fell flat, and Bristol knew there was something he wasn't telling her. There won't be any mercy this time, he said. Your trial is being overseen by Justice Olrigade. Who? Justice Olrigade is the most despised justice in the whole court system. He has a god complex and is notorious for condemning people to death whenever possible. Even when prosecution deputies recommend the minimum penalty, Olrigade likes to bully them into recommending maximum penalty just so he can enforce it. Oh my gosh, Bristol gasped. It gets worse, Brooks went on. Olrigade has hated Father since their days at University of Law. During their time as deputy justices, Father never lost a case against Olrigade and would humiliate him during his trials. That's the reason he assigned me to your defense. It's impossible for a defense deputy to win a case like this, and he wanted to watch an evergreen lose. And Olrigade would be thrilled to sentence you to death if he had the chance. Bristol couldn't believe her misfortune. She was getting punished not only by the laws of the Southern Kingdom, but also, apparently, by the universe itself. Then, I'm doomed, she said quietly. There's no way around it. There's still one thing in our favor you're forgetting, Brooks reminded her. Like I said, as far as anyone knows, this is the case of Bailey versus the Southern Kingdom. Justice Olrigade doesn't know who you are. Trials usually don't begin until a day or two after incarceration, so hopefully that'll give Father enough time to help you before Olrigade finds out. So that's why you pretended we weren't related in front of the guard? You didn't want anyone to realize who I am? Exactly. Bristol never thought the day would come when she was thankful for having a brother like Brooks, but here it was. All the calculating and mischievous qualities that she resented about him were now tools he was using to save her life. I'm so scared, Brooks, she said. Yeah, well, you should be, he said. Even if Father finds a way to help you, you aren't going to walk out of here freely. Best case scenario, you'll probably spend the rest of your life in prison, far away from Chariot Hills. I think you suppose I deserve this for being stupid, she said through tears. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I just wanted life to be different. Huh, I guess you got what you asked for. The door swung open as the guards returned to the cell. He was wheezing and sweating profusely from his journey to and from the fourth floor. I delivered the message to the justice, sir, the guard grumbled. Yeah, just in time, too. I'm all finished here. Brooks picked up his briefcase and headed for the door, but Bristol stopped him as he stepped into the hall. Deputy Justice Evergreen, she asked, if you happen to see them, will you please give my love to my mother and my brother and tell them I am so sorry for all of this. Her brother gave her the slightest nod possible without attracting the guard's attention. Yeah, I'm not your messenger, criminal, he said dramatically. See you in court. Brooks continued down the hall and the guard followed, locking the cell door behind him. As the sound of their footsteps faded, Bristol was consumed by the extreme sorrow she had never experienced before. She laid on the stone bench and wept until there wasn't a teardrop left inside of her. And as far as she knew, her brother was the last piece of home she would ever see again. That night, Bristol was jolted awake when her cell door suddenly burst open. 2 prison guards charged inside, grabbed her by the arms, and forced her to her feet. Without saying a word, the guard rushed Bristol out of the cell, raised her across the prison, and then hurried her up the spiral staircase. They moved at such a frantic pace that Bristol had trouble keeping up and had to be dragged the majority of the way. She had no idea what was happening or where they were taking her, and she was too afraid to ask. They reached the top of the staircase and entered the main corridor of the courthouse. The corridor usually was bustling with deputy justices and justices alike, and it was dark and completely empty. Bristol figured that it must have been past midnight, which made the whole situation even more frightening. What could be so important that it required her to be transported in the middle of the night? Hey Lydia, all of that information can be found in my most recent videos. The restock is tonight at 5 p.m. Pacific time, and all of the links will be available at that time. All of that information is in previous videos, though you can just watch the videos from the past couple of days. At the end of the dark corridor, Bristol spotted Brooks pacing in front of a pair of large double doors. His face was bright red, and he angrily muttered to himself as he moved. Brooks, she called out, what's going on? Why are we in the courthouse so late? Just as Olrigade found out who you are, he said. The guard must have read my note and tipped him off, that bastard. Olrigade moved up your trial, and he's trying to sentence you before Father has time to intervene. Wait, I don't understand, Bristol said. When is the trial happening? Now. he said. The guards pushed open the double doors and pulled Bristol into the courtroom. Her brother followed closely behind. They were the first to arrive, and Bristol was overwhelmed by her first glimpse. It was easily the biggest room she had ever been in. It was surrounded by massive marble pillars that stretched into darkness, a seemingly endless ceiling. Wooden risers wrapped around the courtroom with enough seats for thousands of witnesses. The only source of light came from 2 torches burning on either side of the justice's chair, which raised on a tall platform at the front of the room. An enormous portrait of King Champion XIV hung on the wall behind the platform, and the sovereign scowled down at the courtroom like a giant like a judgmental giant. Sorry. Hello, I was just about to ask what we're reading, but then I saw the pinned comment. Oh yeah, you can see that? Excellent, great. Yes, this is A Tale of Magic by Chris Coffer. The guards locked Bristol in a tall iron cage that stood at the very center of the room. The bars were so wide that she could barely see through them. Brooks took a seat at the empty table left of the cage. Bristol assumed the empty table to her right was reserved for the prosecution deputy. "Try to stay calm," her brother whispered, "and whatever you do, don't say anything. It will only make things worse." A small door behind the platform opened, and Justice Olrigade entered the courtroom from his private chambers. Even if he wasn't the justice overseeing her trial, the sight of Olrigade would have been just as chilling. He was a skeleton of a man with pitch-black beard and sunken eyes that had pupils the size of pinpricks. His skin was the color of pea soup, and his long fingernails made his hands look like claws. Olrigade was followed by 4 guards, and to Bristol's horror, an executioner also emerged from the justice's private chambers carrying a large silver axe. Bristol turned to her brother, hoping to find reassurance in his eyes, but Brooks was as alarmed as she was. The trial hadn't even started, and her fate seemed to be sealed. The justice climbed up the steps of the platform and took his seat. He glared down at Bristol with a twisted grin, like a cat gawking at a mousetrap. With 3 loud bangs of his gavel, the proceedings began.
"The case of Bailey versus the Southern Kingdom shall commence," he announced.
Your Honor, I'd like to remind you that it is illegal to begin a trial without a prosecution deputy, Brooks said. And furthermore, it is completely unethical to have an executioner present before a defendant has been sentenced.
"I'm aware of the law, Deputy Justice."
The justice sneered. "The prosecution deputy will be here any moment. However, you, of all people, should not be lecturing me about ethics. It's recently come to my attention that you have made a deliberate attempt to conceal information from this court. That is a direct violation of your moral duties as Deputy Justice, and violators must be reprimanded."
"Your Honor, what's the purpose of this?" Brooks objected.
"As I'm sure you're aware, defense deputy, whenever a deputy justice is caught committing a violation in court, it's up to the proceeding justice to apply an appropriate punishment," Olrigade explained. "I've decided to teach you a lesson about the importance of transparency. Since you attempted to conceal the defendant's identity from me, her identity will be concealed for the rest of the trial. You're not to speak a word about who she is until after the prosecution deputy has recommended penalties. Let one word slip and I'll charge you with conspiracy to assist a criminal. Is that understood?" Bristol didn't have to see the hatred beaming from her brother's eyes to know that it was there. "Yes, Your Honor," Brooks said. "I understand." "Good," Olrigade said. "Now, bring the prosecution deputy." The double doors creaked open, and Bristol heard a new pair of footsteps enter the courtroom. Strangely, the prosecution deputy only made it halfway through the room before he stopped in his tracks. "Brooks?" a familiar voice asked. "Barry?" he gasped. "You're the prosecution deputy?" Bristol felt lightheaded and went weak in the knees. She had to grab the bars of her cage to prevent herself from sliding to the floor. Justice Olrigade was using her trial to get revenge on the Evergreen family, and it was more malicious and cruel than she ever could have imagined. "This is my first assignment," Barry said happily. "Why didn't you tell me you were the defense deputy on the Bailey versus Southern Kingdom case?" I was trying to keep it quiet," Brooks said. "Why is the defendant covered up?" Barry asked. I'm not allowed to discuss it," Brooks said. "Barry, listen to me. This trial isn't what it seems." "That's quite enough, Deputy Justice," Justice Olregade commanded. "Thank you for joining us on such short notice. Prosecution deputy. Now, please step forward and present the charges against the defendant." Barry took his place behind the table to Bristol's right. She heard him remove papers from his briefcase. He cleared his throat before reading them aloud. Your Honor, 3 men witnessed the defendant conjuring a spell from an open book in the private section of the Chariot Hills Library, he said. The first witness was the librarian, Mr. Pat Wise Woolsore, and the other 2 were officers of the King's Royal Guard, and all 3 have signed sworn statements of what they encountered. Given the credibility of the observers, the defendant has been charged with 1 count of trespassing, 1 count of female literacy, and 1 count of committing magic. I'll now relinquish the floor to the Deputy Justice.
Given the substantial evidence of the nature of these crimes, we will not waste any time on the defense, Justice Olregade said.
Your Honor, I object, Brooks shouted.
Overruled. Watch your tone, defense deputy,
the Justice warned.
Now, moving on. What penalty does the prosecution recommend?
This was the moment that Bristol had been dreading. With just 2 words, her own brother would either save her life or cement her demise. Her heart was pounding out of her chest, and she forgot to breathe as she waited to hear his answer. Your Honor, due to the number of felonies that were committed in such a short period of time, I believe that the defendant has committed more crimes than would have if they were given the chance. We must remove all likelihood of this happening again, and furthermore, we must prevent all possibility of the defendant harming innocent lives in the process. That is why I must recommend a sentence with—
Barry, you've got to stop, Brooks shouted. Defense deputy, control yourself, Olregade ordered. I know you think you're doing the right thing, but you're not. Guards, restrain and silence him immediately.
Olregade is hiding the defendant from you on purpose. Don't recommend a maximum punishment. Trust me, you're going to regret this for the rest of your life. Bristol could hear Brooks fighting the guards off as he tried to convince their brother. He grunted and choked as they pinned him down and stuffed cloth into his mouth. God, you're so pathetic, Barry told his brother. Your, desire to sabotage me is so great that you make a complete fool of yourself in court, but I'm not as daft as you think, and I will not let you jeopardize my career. Father said I need to show strength if I want the court to take me seriously, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Your Honor, prosecution recommends the maximum penalty. After hearing her brother's recommendation, Bristol lost all feeling and collapsed onto the floor of the cage like a marionette with severed strings. Brooks screamed at the top of his lungs, but the cloth muffled his word.
Well, then without further notice, I hereby sentence the defendant to death, Justice Olregade ruled. The execution shall take place immediately. Guards, please remove the defendant from the cage and position her for the executioner. But first, please restrain the prosecution deputy. This may be unpleasant for him to watch.
The guards seized Barry and tied his hands behind his back. He tried to resist them, but they were too strong. What's the meaning of this? He asked. Why am I being restrained? Unhand me at once. I've done nothing wrong. The sheet was removed from the cage, and with one glance, the blue eyes peeking out from inside, Barry realized who the defendant was. Bristol? He said in shock. But what are you doing in there? You're supposed to be volunteering at the Home for the Hopeless. The executioner placed a thick wooden block on the floor below the justice's platform. The guards dragged Bristol out from the cage and positioned her head on the block, and as the executioner hovered above her, the reality of what Barry had just done sank in. He became manic and struggled against his restraints with all his might. No! He screamed. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know it was her. Justice Olregade smiled and cackled at the trauma he was causing the Evergreen family. The executioner raised his axe above Bristol's neck and practiced swinging it. From the floor, Bristol could see her brothers frantically trying to fight off the guards, and they were holding them back. In that moment, she was almost grateful for Olregade's vengeful tactics, because if she was going to die, at least this way she would die looking at the people that she loved. Bristol, I'm so sorry, Barry sobbed. Forgive me. Please forgive me. It's going to be all right, Barry, she whispered. This isn't your fault. This isn't your fault. This isn't your fault. Wham! The double doors suddenly swung open, causing everyone to jump and turn back to the back of the courtroom. Justice Evergreen stormed inside with the rage of 100 men.
Olregade, stop this blasphemy at once, he demanded. How dare you interrupt a trial in progress, Evergreen? Olregade shouted. Leave the courtroom this instant or I'll have you removed. This isn't a trial, this is an atrocity, Justice Evergreen declared.
The executioner glanced back and forth at the sparing justices, uncertain of who to take orders from.
Carry on, man! Overgate yelled. This is my courtroom. Justice Evergreen has no authority here. As a matter of fact, I do, Justice Evergreen said, and he raised a scroll of parchment high into the air. I have returned from the High Justice Montclair's home in western countryside, and he has given me the power to commandeer this trial and overrule your sentencing. The justice unrolled the scroll so everyone in the courtroom can see it. The document was an official order from High Justice Montclair. His large signature was featured at the bottom. This is outrageous! All exclaimed. Your daughter is a witch, Evergreen. She must be punished for her crimes. And punishment she shall receive, but it won't be from you, Justice Evergreen said. Montclair has sentenced her to live in a facility northeast plains of the Southern Kingdom until further notice. The facility, as I'm told, specializes in treating young women with my daughter's condition. There's a carriage outside. We need to transport her as we speak. In the meantime, the High Justice has ordered you to erase any mention of this trial or the records from this court. Justice Overgate went silent as he contemplated his next move. When he realized how limited his options were, Overgate became furious and banged his gavel until it broke into 2 pieces. Well, it appears Justice Evergreen has used his connections to manipulate the law, he told the room. At the moment, I have no choice but to follow the High Justice's orders. Guards, please take the Evergreen Witch to the carriage outside. Before she had the chance to say goodbye to her brothers, the guards raised Bristol off the executioner's block and began dragging her out of the courtroom. But Father, where am I going? She cried. What facilities are they taking me to? Father, please. Despite her desperate pleas, Justice Evergreen refused to answer his daughter's questions. He didn't even look at her in the eye as the guards pulled her past him. Don't you dare address me as father, he said. You're no daughter of mine. Well, we learned one thing today. Brooks might be a taunting older brother, but he's not the worst. Yeah, you can see the cover. It's called A Tale of Magic. It's called A Tale of Magic. So, yeah, Brooks is a little bit of a... I was, actually, Becca. I think that might be what he was going for. Actually, I think he might be going for conversion therapy. It might be like an allegory for that, if you had to ask me. But, you know, what are you gonna do? But it did work, yeah. Brooks isn't as bad as we thought, is what we learned today. He's not the bad guy, you know, because he tried. He really did. I gotta give it to him for that. He really tried. He tried to warn their dad. He tried to warn Barry. He was trying to do his best to help her. Yeah. So that's the whole sitch. Today is restock day. I will be on live later to make slime and do restock. So I will see you all on the flip side. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Yeah, exactly, Becca. Yeah, me too. I respect him after this. I do too. He was really trying. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll see you all later. I'll probably be on maybe like 3:30 to make slime, something-ish. Exactly, Becca. Exactly. All right. Bye, guys.